anything?
No, I was talking.
So we've gone a different direction.
Ace went that direction. I had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, but you didn't see the smile. There was that.
Alright. Well, at least we're finally freaking online. Only 40 minutes late. Screw all of you.
Thanks.
Not you. Just all the technological bits.
See, that's the best thing you could do. It's just try to screw off.
Hey everybody! Alright, hopefully you can hear me and see me. Welcome to our Elfin Pendant tutorial. It's been an exciting technological 40 minutes here at the Beading Dreams. Hi Barb! So yeah, so here I am finally to teach you this project, the Elfin Pendant. This is a really fun wire wrapping project that will show up on the screen in a minute. I did mine with a teardrop. Yay, picture and sound. I did mine with a teardrop, but you could probably do this with an oval, I'm thinking, and it would work just fine. So let's talk tools and supplies for this evening's tutorial now that we are finally on the air. You're going to need something to wrap. So a cabochon, or what I actually have here is it's a double-sided, really? Are you kidding me?
Did it?
Is this better?
No, it's just my hand cam is on, but not. You know, I'm just gonna murder everything.
Please don't.
But please,
Please get out of range.
that's my face cam. Oh, wait, I have the hand cam plugged into the hub. Alright, hold please. The hand cam doesn't like being plugged into the hub because it's princessy. So, hold on. We need to trade. Now you can't see me, but you can still hear me. So now here's the question is, yay! Now everything's working. Stupid princessy technology. Good night. Okay, so thank you for your assist on that. Okay, so what I have here that I'm gonna wrap is actually a, oh, and I unplugged it, so now it's not focused anymore. That's awesome. I'm gonna throw something. I swear to God.
No, throw your hand down.
I won't throw my hand cam.
I know
You
it's
can hit me.
I don't need to hit anything that hasn't offended me.
I can offend you real quick.
No. Nice try, but
we believe in you though.
Oh, I'm sure.
alright, there we go. Now we have focus, at least on the camera. Alright, so what I've got here is a double-sided faceted chalcedony teardrop. Like I said, I'm pretty sure this would work with an oval, and it would work with a cabochon, so it doesn't have to be a double-sided piece like I'm using today. You're going to need some 20 gauge square wire, and I'm going to be using 20 gauge sterling square wire for the project today. On my sample I used 20 gauge gold filled square wire, and then you also need a little bit of half round wire. Now this is 20 gauge half round wire. On my sample I could not for the life of me find my 20 gauge half round wire before the stream, even though I know that it exists because I used it to make the sample. But anyway, I'm going to be using 22 gauge half round instead of my 20 gauge half round for the project today. It should work just fine because I'm not using a ton of it. So I'm going to start by cutting my wires to length. So I'm going to, I have no idea where my ruler is, that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and cut myself 5 pieces of wire, and for a stone that's about 1.5 to 2 inches long, I'm going to cut 5 12-inch pieces of wire. So yes, this project really does take 5 feet of half round wire. So 1 foot, 2 feet, 3. Now, as far as tools for this evening's class, you're just going to need your basic wire working tools. That is going to be round nose pliers, chain nose pliers, and wire cutters. Currently, I'm cutting my square wire. Lori, good question. So 5 12-inch pieces of my square wire. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, and here is number 5. And then just to have it on deck and ready, I'm going to go ahead and just cut myself a 12-inch piece of my half round wire. I keep like tucking this cord up under my laptop and it keeps escaping. Well, no, nobody wants to see that messy part of the streaming area camera. Also, it would be nice if you would focus on me. No. Okay, it's a good thing this isn't an IMAX film or everyone would currently be experiencing motion sickness. Alright, so 1 foot of 22 gauge half round wire. Again, 20 gauge is better if you have it. Mine's around here somewhere, I just have no idea where. So I'm using the 22 gauge instead. Ooh, excuse me. Okay, so the other tool that's going to be really helpful for this project, and one of the tools that I did not have when I was making this project on the Zoom the other night, is this. This is the hemostat, and I mean it's just basically a medical hemostat. They make them for the bead biz with this rubber coating on the end so that it doesn't mar your wire. And the hemostats are really useful in square wire projects, because when you're doing a square wire project, your main goal is to keep the wires all aligned. So to that effect, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to straighten and smooth out all my wires, because like see how wonky this wire is? Like that's not going to fly. That's not going to help you make a good project. So I'm just going to hold my square wire in my chain nose and just run my fingers down it to smooth out all those kinks. So you don't necessarily need to make your wire stick straight. If it still has a curve to it, that's okay, but what you really want is you want it to be smooth. Okay, so you want all those little wobbles to be gone from your wire, and I'm going to do that for all 5 of my pieces. That's 2. Well, hi Mandy Head, how are you? How's everything in the land of academia? We've been having fun with technology here at the Beading Dreams. And by fun with technology, I mean literally everyone on stream heard me curse my technology. I'm so sorry, that sucks so incredibly. What a very convenient time to get a cold during finals week. Okay, so now I'm going to line up my 5 pieces of square wire so that the ends are roughly even. Now, I didn't do a great job of cutting everything to the same length, so, you know, there's a little bit of irregularity there, which is fine. And we're going to then line up. You know, Barb, I'm not a huge fan of wire straighteners just because I can do it with my fingers or with a polishing cloth and it's fine, but do whatever works for you. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all my square wires and I'm going to line them up. And by line them up, I mean that I'm going to put all of my flat sides going the same direction. Okay, so I've got all flat sides facing up, and this is where your hemostat is going to come in really handy. So I'm going to open up my hemostat and I'm just going to clamp it down on those wires and see how it's going to hold those wires nice and flat for me. That's going to make it a lot easier for me to wrap. And what I want as far as positioning goes is I want to be approximately in the middle of my wires. I'm going to wrap a little bit over to the side, so I want to be slightly off center but not too far. So yeah, I always use my fingers to straighten wire. Nylon jaw pliers are a distant second for me, but you know, everyone has their thing that works for them, and also tool companies always want to sell gadgets to beaders because that's how they make money. That's not half round wire. Son of... Hey Heather. Can you find me any flavor of 20 or 22 gauge half round wire? Pretty please. It's just not my night, y'all. This is not half round wire. This is also square wire. Just 22 gauge. So could I use this in place of half round? Like if I were in a pinch and I weren't at the bead shop and this was all I had, Yes, you absolutely can. It just doesn't lay quite as nicely as when you use half round wire. So I'm going to use, thank you, you're the best. All right, I got copper half round wire in 20 gauge because Heather's amazing. So I'm going to cut myself a foot of that. Okay, please don't like murderate yourself.
No, I'm not going to completely murderate myself. Just, I mean, my head.
Don't exsanguinate yourself, please. I can only handle one employee in the hospital at once.
Right.
Okay, so back to where I was when I realized that I'd made a critical error. I'm going to straighten this one as well. So while I'm straightening this, don't forget it is a Wednesday night. That means we are going to have a live merchandise sale. It's probably going to start closer to 8 just because this tutorial is probably going to end closer to 7:30, but I've got new 8-inch gemstone strands for y'all, a bunch of cool rando strandos, and a couple of tiny shinies as well. So it should be a good sale. So don't give up on us. Tune in at probably, like I said, 8 p.m. Central Time. And we will hit you up with some awesome new merchandise. Also, we got some fun tutorials for you later on this week. Tomorrow I'm doing a beaded sun catcher. Torch Thursday is going to be the first engraving project that I've ever taught on stream. Freeform Friday is going to be a torch project. It is going to be this ring, which was supposed to be my project last Torch Thursday, and I did not manage to do it because I talked too much. So that's going to be our Freeform Friday project, is that ring. And then Saturday we've got some fun stuff coming up for you as well. So now that I've straightened out my wire, I'm going to go ahead and use it to bind all my square wires together. So I'm going to take my half round wire, and half round wire is called half round for exactly the reason that you would think. It is domed on one side and flat on the other side. So anytime we're bending a half round wire, we need to make sure we bend it with the flat side on the inside. So I'm going to take my chain nose pliers, I'm just going to grab at the end of that half round wire, and I'm going to flip it over like so to make a little J hook. Then I'm going to take my wires that are clamped in my hemostat, and I'm going to hook my little J hook over the wires, and then I'm going to wrap around all of the wires. So our hemostat's going to help our wires stay flat, but what we want to do is we want to wrap nice and tightly, but we don't want to pull our wires into a little bundle. So you've got to kind of find this happy medium between wrapping too tightly and not wrapping tightly enough. And I'm going to do about 4 or 5 wraps. And if I am concerned, like I'm getting concerned that this is too tight, you can always take your chain nose pliers and just kind of give it a crimp. And if everything still goes flat when you crimp it, then you're fine. If it doesn't, then you've wrapped too tightly. Alright, so then I'm going to go ahead and trim off my wire. So I want all my wire ends to be on the same side of the project. So I'm going to go ahead and trim that off. I'm going to set that aside. I am going to need that again, so make sure you put it somewhere where you can find it again. And then I can take these ends and press them flat. Make sure everything is nice and tucked in. Alright, and at this point now, I can go ahead and release my hemostat because now my wires are bound together flat. So the side with the wire ends is going to be what's going to wind up being against the stone. So we're going to start by making all of these kind of curvy bits. So the way this works is I've got my middle wires. Okay, so of my 5, this is actually the middle wire. So of the front middle is going to come up and make this sort of figure 8 thing, and then the front is going to come up and sort of accent that figure 8 with that right there. Hi, Smee! And then we're going to do the same on the back, make our bail, and then use our wires that are left over for decorative bits. So I'm going to start by making those sort of sinuous figure 8 sort of curves. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take not the outside wire, but the next wire. So I'm going to grab, not that wire either, grab the next wire. There we go. Okay, so this is in my sequence here. This is the second wire, and then I'm going to grab its opposite side from over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bend each of these wires up, and what I'm doing is I'm letting the wire kind of create its own curve. So this is one of those projects where you don't really want to over manipulate the wire. If you just hold the wire and bring it up, it'll form a nice little teardrop shape all on its own without you really having to mess with it too much. So the problem that I often find when I'm teaching this to beginners is they want to do too much work, and this is definitely a less is more situation. Do you want to kind of match that curve? So there we go. So there's that. Then I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to do the same thing with the two corresponding wires on the other side. So once again, not the outside wires, but the second wires. Oh, really? Come on. Okay, so there's the second wire on that side. I'm going to find the same wire on this side, and then once again bring them up and let the wire make its own curve. Bring it up, let the wire make its own curve. Okay, so now I have roughly even kind of teardrop shapes. You don't have to make them completely even, because one's going to be on the front of the stone, one's going to be on the back of the stone. And you can make this as tall or as short as you want. What I like to do at this point is just kind of take my stone and drop it on the floor in a bag of paperwork.
Oh, I like to do that too.
Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one.
No.
So before I drop my stone, what I was saying is what I like to do at this point is kind of just sort of rest that stone in there so I can see proportionally, like, you know, what am I doing? And I think I want to pull these teardrops down a little bit shorter so that I can have a little bit more kind of room to play on the top. So if I'm going to shorten these, all I need to do is just grab and just pull a little bit more. And remember, wire springs back. Okay, so you got to pull a little bit farther down than you actually want in order to get the shape that you desire. Now we're going to go ahead and do the second part of this. So we're going to just hold kind of right below this joint, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to bend the wire over, and we're going to let the wire make its own curve, and bend the wire the other way and let it make its own curve. And I like this top curve to be more shallow than the bottom curve. If you want to curve that a little bit more with your fingers, you can. And then again, repeat on the back side. So don't forget to hold right here, kind of below the joint, and you're going to have to pinch that pretty solidly. Otherwise, all you're going to do is mess up that first little teardrop that you made. And then just, okay, here, I'll do this one first so you can see better. Just bring the wire over, let it make its own curve. See, that's what I mean about it springing back. And then do the same with your other wire. And the second bit sometimes requires a little bit more manipulation to make it look good, but remember, don't over manipulate the wire. It's not going to be as pretty. Okay, so now what you should have is you should have this kind of elongated infinity shape. Now we're going to take the middle wires. Okay, so we got 3 wires left, 1 on each side and 1 in the middle. So the middle wire is our next working wire. This wire is going to ride around the outside of our stone. So this is where if I had a third hand or a prehensile tail, I would use it. Unfortunately, I don't have either of those things, so I'm going to be stuck with just my own 2 hands. So I want to take my stone and I want to really seat it in there as close to that wrap as you can. So I push down on the bottom of the stone and now it's in there. So now I'm going to take that middle wire and I'm going to bring it up and around my stone. I'm just going to cross it straight through all these wires on top. And again, because wire is a pain in the ass, you're going to have to bend it a little bit further so that it'll spring out and ride around the edge of the stone. Then, of course, you got to flip this whole daggum thing around and do it with the other wire as well, or the other side of the wire, because technically it is the same piece of wire. So grab the middle one, bring it up, sort of cross it through all those wires that are there, bend it a little bit farther in than you want, and then let it snap back. So now what you have is ideally 2 wires crossing the back of your stone, 2 wires crossing the front of your stone, and 2 wires going up each side. Now we're going to start kind of bringing all of this together at the top. And so what that means is I've got all these wires, and at this point, if you want to employ a good trick, which I know Lori is a huge fan of, you could actually tape all of these wires at this point to your stone, and that way you wouldn't have to worry about holding them. That is definitely a great idea. I'm not going to use it because I'm not always the smartest person on the planet, but trust me, tape is your friend. When you're doing something like this, tape and hemostats make a world of difference.
It's almost always your friend.
It's true. But so what I need to do now is I need to start taking this whole like kind of messy bunch of wires here, and I need to make them all come together smoothly. So the way I do that is I'm just going to go to the top of my stone and I'm going to bend this wire, and I'll kind of pull the other wires away and show you. So I'm going to bend this wire right here so that it'll come right to the top of the stone like that and meet right at the central axis of the stone. Now I'm going to do that with its opposite number. Once again, if you have a third hand or a prehensile tail, this is going to be much easier for you than for me. But so I'm going to hold that and then decide where I need to grab it. And then again, just bend that straight up. So now these 2 wires, at least, will come together nicely and they will frame my stone. Except for the fact that one of them is in the wrong place. Shh, don't tell. That's better. Okay. So they'll come together nicely and they will frame my stone like so. Now I'm going to take my sort of decorative wires and I'm going to do the same thing. So where they are going to come together nice. Alright, so where they're going to kind of come together right here at the top, I'm going to do the same thing. And at this point, I'm going to put that down for a minute so I can hold this. And then once again, you're just going to bend like so and like so. So now, not that one too much. So now these wires also will come together neatly, and then I'm going to mirror that on the back. And all these wires at this point are going to be super duper swirly because everything's just kind of loosey-goosey, nothing's secured yet. I promise our next step will make these wires behave a little bit better. And our next step is going to involve the rest of that 22 gauge or 20 gauge half round, wire. So if you don't know where you put it, make sure you find it, or cut yourself some more. Okay, what is it with you and your kids finding stray cats, Amy?
Seriously.
Because, I mean,
What in the hay?
I guess they just find you because they know. They smart.
If you have a sign on your door that says sucker, you might want to take it down.
Okay, so now, oh, dog. Got it. And also, hi Megan. No worries, I was extremely tardy getting on stream, so it's really apparently just par for the course for tonight, is that everything is a solid, 30 to 40 minutes later than it should be. And you know what? That's okay. Alright, and then I'm just going to do the same thing with these last two wires, bend them straight up so that they'll come together nicely. There we go. Alright, so now I'm going to take my half round wire and I'm going to drop my stone into my setting, so it's going to go in between those two pieces there. It's just going to drop right down in there. And then theoretically at this point I should be able to gather together all of these bits at the top of my stone and have them come together, as you can see, much more nicely and cleanly than they did before. Now, once again, hemostat. Hemostat is stuck in sample necklace. No bueno. Operator error. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to clamp my hemostat a little bit above where all these wires are coming together. So I'm going to clamp it like right about there. So that's going to hold everything together. Now I'm going to take my half round wire just like I did before, and I'm going to make a little J hook in it. That's a good question. Hey Header, does Rio sell hemostats? I don't actually know, because they're more of a, I mean, they are a wire working tool, but I feel like more beaders use them than wire workers. Okay, so this is the first round of wrapping. Okay, so I'm going to wrap all the way down until I reach my joint. I'm not going to cut my wire though, because there's going to be a second round of wrapping to anchor our bail. Okay, so just leave that wire hanging.
They do.
They do.
They're called stevostats.
Okay then. That's exciting. Okay, so now we can make our bail. So for our bail, we're just going to use our two backmost wires. So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of getting the rest of these wires out of the way. Okay, because these are going to be used for my decorative bits. And I'm going to just bend these forward a bit and grab my round nose pliers and then roll my wires over my round nose pliers. That's going to make my bail, and now I'm going to take the rest of my, oh Lord, okay, that's not cool. Make sure the ends of your bail are, even, and then you're going to take your half round wire and you're going to wrap back over everything from the bottom to the top, and now you're going to catch those bail wires in that wire. And yes, at this point it is totally an absolute stabby mess, so don't stab yourself with it. Hi Tallyfet, welcome, welcome. Are you going to be on the sale stream tonight? I have a very few tiny shinies.
They're so tiny and so
They're so
pretty.
tiny and so shiny. So if you're going to be on the sale at any point, let me know when and I'll make sure to do the tiny shinies when you can watch. Okay, so I'm just continuing to wrap, and you see it looks kind of awkward right now because this is, you know, so far back. So what I find is easy to make that look a little bit nicer is to just take your chain nose and bend that in, and just make sure that you are pulling this half round wire as tight as you possibly can. And when you get back to the top, then you can go ahead and trim your wire off. I see your question, Lori. I'll answer in just a second. Trim your wire off and tuck it in, and a lot of times it's helpful if you can. I may not have left myself enough wire to do this, but you can actually tuck it and anchor it around the bail. So, which wires did I make the bail with? I used the backmost 2 wires, but you can really use any 2 wires as long as they'll kind of line up nicely, like this. Okay, so here's my setting. So I've got this is now my back because that's where I put my bail. I've got my little infinity on the back. I've got my infinity on the front. Now I'm going to take my, you can bend your bail wires out of the way a little bit. I'm going to take my frontmost wires, okay, the ones we haven't touched yet, and I'm just going to take them across like so. So I'm making a sharper angle than what I had here, and then I'm going to anchor them around this side here. So I'm going to just trim that nice and short because I just need to anchor it around this side bit. And so I'm just going to take that and wrap it around my side wire. So you just kind of have to grab it and like poke that wire up through there, and just grab it then and turn it all the way around. Make sure you press it down nice and firmly, otherwise you're going to have a stabby bit. Okay, so that's one. Now I'm going to do the same thing with its opposite number. So again, I'm going to take that across like so, and then once again trim, and anchor around this side right here. So once again, the best way to do that is to, if you need to kind of wiggle your pliers in there to just get that away from your bead a little bit, and then twist until you've got an end there that you can then grab with your chain nose and then just pull it around. And once again, make sure that you get all the way around and make sure that you press that down. Really? Make sure that you press that down nice and firmly so that it's not stabby. Then repeat on the back. So, and this is where your bail wires are going to be a bit in the way. So we're just going to pull, again, pull that one across. And you don't have to put it lower. You can put it higher if you want to. If you want to anchor in a different spot, I'm going to go right about there. And again, we're going to trim. And then it's the same thing. I'm just going to grab my end, go round, poke it up, until I can grab it, and then wrap it round. Once again, make sure you press the end down so that you don't stab yourself. Like so, and then same with the other one. So across, like so, and then anchor. Oh, that's good. Pardon me while I pick up the pliers I just dropped. Oh, I dropped them all the way over there. Go me. Good job. one of those days, apparently. Okay, so now it's time for me to anchor this. Just curl it around, hook it up through that little space, grab the end, bring it round one more time, and then press it down. So by this point, your stone should be in your setting securely, okay? Like, you should be able to shake it, rattle it, roll it, throw it, toss it, whatever you want to do, and it should stay in there. So now the last thing that we're going to do is we've got opportunities for embellishment. So I've got 6 wires here that I can use for embellishment. I don't have to use all of them if I don't want to. On my sample, I think I used 4 of them. So now I can take my wires and I can just bring them down on the front of my pendant and anchor them wherever I want. So I'm going to choose an anchor point below what I had done before. So again, same procedure, trim and wrap around. If you need to use your chain nose to kind of pull that away from your stone, you can. Apparently I didn't do that enough. There we go. So just stick it up through that little space and then grab it and pull it around to anchor it. Like so. And then if I want to be symmetrical, I can take the same wire on the other side and I can bring it down and anchor it in the same place. You don't have to be symmetrical, you can totally be asymmetrical if that's your thing. So again, stick it up. And then grab it, pull it around. Like so. And okay, this leaves me with 6 wires left. So I think I'm just going to take one of those wires, turn it into a little spiral on the front. So I'm going to cut it and I'm going to make a spiral, which means I'm going to start with my round nose pliers and then make a little circle, and then I'm just going to use my chain nose pliers to spiral that up. So basically when you're making a spiral, you're just going to keep sort of rotating that around with your chain nose until your spiral is made. And then I'm just going to put that right on the front there so it sort of hides all of that wire wrapping. If I wanted to, I could take this one, down again. And actually, what I think might be fun is to take this up through here. Make sure you pull it tight. And then I'm going to turn this into a spiral as well. So once again, start with the circle and then just continue wrapping it up with your chain nose to make a spiral. And I'm just going to bring that right around to sit down there. And then I think that's plenty busy enough on the front. So all I'm going to do with my bail wires is I'm going to split them into a V. I'm going to make sure that my bail is nice and even. And then I'm going to trim them off pretty short. That's probably about 3/8 of an inch. And then I'm just going to bend them around in a circle that's just going to tuck in right at the base of my bail. And all that's really meant to do is keep your bail wires from going back up like into your wraps and coming undone if your piece should get yanked on. And make sure you just press those down nice and flat. So you've got two just cute little curly cues on the back. You've got all this fun business on the front. Make sure you check for rough edges, like that one right there definitely needs some attention with the pliers. And then if you want, you don't have to, but if you want to make this into kind of a rabbit ear style bail, all you need to do is just put your chain nose in there and just sort of kick those wires out from each other to make a rabbit ear bail. Alright, and that's it. Thank you so much for sticking around 30 minutes past when this tutorial should have ended to do our Elfin pendant. So I am Allison from Beading Dreams in Dallas, Texas. Once again, thanks so much for hanging out for this fun tutorial this evening, Elfin pendant. And we will be back on this channel, twitch.tv/beadingdream, in just 30 minutes. So that's going to be right around 8 o'clock p.m. with a live merchandise sale. Thank you, Tallyfet. We have new merchandise for you tonight. We've got some new 8-inch strands and also some tiny shinies, so it's going to be a fun sale this evening. Again, starting at 8 since it's 7:30 now. Heather and I need to do all the closing stuff, and I need to possibly put some food in my face, so I'm going to go to that. And we'll see y'all back on this channel, twitch.tv/beadingdream in 30 minutes for the sale. If you're not going to join us, I will food my face, Tallyfet, I promise. If you're not going to join us for the sale, don't forget we'll be back on this channel, twitch.tv/beadingdream tomorrow at noon with a crystal sun catcher tutorial. That's going to be really fun. And then Torch Thursday tomorrow night. So we'll see y'all in 30. Everyone have a good break, and we will see you soon.